As Eliana mentioned, we have agency practitioners from the Office of Personnel Management and the Department of Homeland Security to share some real-life applications of how agencies are implementing innovative approaches in their acquisitions. Let's hear from them now. Joining us today from the Office of Personnel Management is Greg Blaschko. Thanks for being here, Greg.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Being able to communicate acquisition innovation efforts through this particular outlet is exciting.
Fantastic. As an Acquisition Innovation Advocate Council team member, could you tell us what the AIA Council is and how you're trying to leverage AIA Council topics and initiatives to enhance your agency's procurement operations?
Certainly. The Council's been excellent. Matthew, Ileana, Ursula, they've really pushed us to expand our mindset and to really drive towards not just innovation, but towards better outcomes through more effective and efficient processes and procedures. OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, is a relatively small CFO Act agency, and our mission is critical to that of the success of the federal government. So recently, we've been focusing more on requirements development, and as mentioned earlier in the webinar, the use of structured engagements and facilitator support services.
Fantastic. Now, regarding your focus on requirements development, the utilization of a structured engagement approach, and in certain instances, secured contracted facilitator support, could you explain the approach, how it was developed, and how it's been applied?
So at OPM, we've developed a structured approach that in large part leverages various aspects of the agency, contracting, program office, obviously, general counsel, security, IT, finance. We've also implemented, as you mentioned, the contracted facilitator support. So those particular efforts have really helped us recognize benefit.
Fantastic. So I understand there's a really good example supporting the agency's background investigation program. How was that event structured? What parties were involved, and what was the intended outcome?
Yeah, that particular event, we focused on requirements development, as I'd mentioned. It was several days in length, John, and it included cross-agency representation. We had representatives in person from DoD, GSA, DHS, OPM, Department of State, and the Office of Federal Procurement Policy. The intended outcome was a requirements package that took into consideration and recognized the needs of those agencies that were impacted or would be impacted by the anticipated award. The structured engagement created a forum for constructive cross-agency communication, talking about lessons learned, best practices, and even anticipated agency or federal-wide changes.
The emphasis there on requirements development seems to be as much about ensuring a complete and accurate scope as it is having equal buy-in government-wide. Would that be a correct assumption?
It is, John, but I don't want to underemphasize the value of nailing down technical requirements as well as the overall scope. Within the acquisition community, and I'm certain our teammates within General Counsel would agree, that a well-written requirements package is critical. Not to mention being able to execute one in an efficient and effective manner, and as you mentioned, having that upfront buy-in from all of the stakeholders.
So what do you consider to be the greatest benefits of the discussed approach?
I would say, John, absolutely the well-written requirements package. I mentioned value earlier. You can certainly in many ways quantify that value, whether it's the industry's understanding the need to a greater extent, and the time saved in not trying to decipher or decode an unclear statement of work. You could also look at the technical requirements and the time and risk reduced during source selection, being able to have a better technical understanding and assessing technical merit. You could also, in the administrative phase, look at the post-award activities, having a very clear government deliverable. All of those benefits, in my mind, they hit at critical phases of the total process. Being able to reduce the time, the cost, and the risk at those phases are significant benefits that we achieved through the use of the structured engagement with facilitator support.
Do you see the approach evolving or growing over time, and if so, how?
Well, in all honesty, I mean, I don't think to the acquisition community it's news. These types of approaches, the structured engagement or the use of facilitators, they're not novel ideas. The agencies have been using them for some time now. For instance, the DoD SAW is a well-established approach. But I will say, in my mind, the benefit or the innovative value is how the acquisition community is documenting and communicating their implementation of those tools. How are we taking that structured process and infusing it with further innovation to get greater benefits? For example, at OPM, we've taken the structured engagement approach, and we're currently working on trying to narrow it down, make it smaller, apply it within just our agency, using just representation across OPM. We're also taking that opportunity at the requirements development phase to try and infuse other great innovative ideas like lean canvas, prototyping and piloting, and minimum product viability. I realize that amongst all of us in the acquisition community, there isn't enough time in the day. There aren't enough hours in the day to execute the to-do list. But I do, having been through the process, having implemented, I do firmly believe that the time and effort that you save preparing, structuring the engagement is well beyond the time and effort it takes to put it into place. Not to mention, you've also got cost savings and overall reduction in risk to the agency and to the federal government.
Fantastic. That all sounds great, Greg. Hopefully, some of our viewers can take some of these ideas you've started at OPM back to their agencies to improve their acquisitions. Thank you again so very much.
Thank you.